Baruch Hashem, in the last 3 days, we started a new Masechta, Masechtas Menachos, which immediately followed the previous Masechta that we learned, and that is Masechtas Zevachim. So the first two Masechtas of Seder Kachim are Zevachim and Menachos. It's a lot of other Masechtas that are coming up, but the first two are Zevachim and Menachos. The primary topic of Zevachim are all the Zevachim, all the karbonos that were live animals. The oila, the chatas, the asham, the shlamim, the bechar meiser and pesach, the toida, all the types of ashamos, all the types of chatos, etc., etc. What's the topic of Masechtas Menachos? It's the other carbon that's not a balchai, and that is the carbon mincha. It's called Menachos because there are many different types of karbonos mincha. So Zevachim deals with all the lebedige karbonos. Menachos deals with the karbonos that came from carbs, right? It deals with the karbonos mincha. The Rambam in Perek Aleph of Hilchas Maaseh Karbonos, so from Halacha Aleph on, starts Kedarke B'Kodesh in a very systematic, clear way. Delineates all the different types of karbonos. There's an oila, there's a chatas, there's an asham, there's a shlamim. The Rambam goes through every single carbon. And then he comes to halacha yud zayin. He says, Kol ha-karbonos ha'elu nikra'im zvachim. He says, all these karbonos that I just mentioned, which is the entire litany of karbonos, with the exception of the mincha, all of these are what we know as zvachim. The Rambam says this as well, almost verbatim, in his Hakdama to Seder Kachim in his Pirush HaMishnayos. So the Rambam wrote a Hakdama to Seder Kachim, and towards the end of the Hakdama, the Rambam says as follows. So here too, he lists all the karbonos, goes into great detail, mentioning every single carbon that you could possibly bring. And he says, Zehu klal kol ha-karbonos, hamakrivim balei chayim, I just gave you the entirety of all the karbonos that were ever brought from Bali Chaim, Vehem Nikram, the Shem Echad Koilol, and they're all referred to by one Shem Klali. And what is that? For who? Zvachim. So you want to know what Zvachim is? It's all the karbonos that were brought from Bali Chaim. Menachos is the one that's not brought from the Bali Chaim, and that is the carbon mincha. The Mabit, in his Sefer Kiryas Sefer, and the Rambam, Perek Aleph Halacha Yud Zayin in Hilchas Maaseh Karbonos says as follows. He says the Rambam says Kol ha-karbonos ha'elu nikram zvachim, that all these karbonos are called zvachim. Nira de lo yikru kol ha-karbonos zvachim ela b'lashon chachamim. That the Rambam said that all these karbonos are called zvachim, he meant b'lashon chachamim. That when the Chachamim use the term Zvachim, it means all the karbonos. Kedetna, kol ha-zvachim shenizbuchu shelo l'shman ksherim. Additionally, ve'izeu mekayman shel Zvachim, and then we list out all the different Zvachim. Avo b'lashon Torah, says the Mabit, lo ikru Zvachim elo hashlamim. He says, b'lashon ha-Torah, the word Zvachim always is referring specifically to the carbon shlamim. The Tosfos Yontif, in his first comment on Masechtas Zevachim, he also quotes the Rambam. Now, Tosfos Yontif doesn't quote the Rambam in Yad Chazaka. Tosfos Yontif quotes the Rambam in his Pirush HaMishnayos. The Kiryas Sefer wrote a Sefer on Yad Chazaka. So when he's making his comment, he's making it on the Rambam's comment, which is Perek Aleph Halacha Yud Zayin in Hilchas Maaseh Karbonos. Tosfos Yontif is a Pirush HaMishnayos, so he was learning Mishnayos, and he saw what the Rambam wrote in his Pirush HaMishnayos, and that is, quote, Kol Shem, that what does Zvachim mean? Shem koilul kol ha-karbonos ha-krevim mi-balei chayim shenoyagam ben l'doiros kasha tzivanu Hashem kach kosav ha-Rambam b'soif ha-kdama l'mesechta zu. Says the Tosfos Yontif, Afal pi sheloshin zvicha loy nemar b'kosav. Even though the Rambam said that the word Zvachim is koilul all the karbonos, however, you should know that the loshin zvicha b'kosav, when you find it in the Torah, it's ela b'shlamim v'oilos. It means only shlamim and oilos. So this is a very similar comment to what the Mabit said. The Mabit said that kol ha-karbonos ha'elu nikram zvachim, nira, to lo yikru kol ha-karbonos zvachim ela b'lashon chachamim. Avo b'lashon Torah, I'm skipping, lo yikru zvachim ela hashlamim. Tosfos Yontif makes almost the identical comment. Again, the Kiryat Sefer in Yad Chazak, Tais Yontif Pirush HaMishnayos. But it's almost the identical comment. Afal Pisha Loshen Zvicha Lo Nema because of Ela B'Shlamim V'Oilos. And says the Mabit that you want to know says the Tais Yontif that you want to know the Makar that B'Loshen HaTorah you find Zvachim only with regards to the Oila and the Shlamim. Take a look at the Even Ezra at the very, very end of Parshas Yisro. So what's this Even Ezra in the end of Parshas Yisro? The Even Ezra brings as follows. He brings that he had a conversation with a min. So we know min is code for mitalmida yeshay noitzri. So the Even Ezra had this conversation with a noitzri. He says, Ro'isi min echad. I saw one min, yishtachaku atzmoisav. She'etan ala chachamim. He had tainas on the chacham. Pavur sha'amru, because the chachamim said, Ezel mekoimen shal zvachim. And it's mashma that according to the chachamim, the word zevach is koilel all the different karbanos. Ki yomar, he said, Ki loy motza b'chol ha'torah zvicha, ki im shlamim. He said that he didn't find the word zvicha referenced in the Torah with the exception of the shlamim. Right? You only find it by the shlamim. And if that's the case, he said, how could the chachamim say, Ezel mekoimen shal zvachim? You only find it by the shlamim. Now just to bring out what this min was tiny. And really, just go through Psukei HaTorah, you'll see that the term Zvicha, Zevach, is always mentioned in reference to the carbon shlamim. But Exhibit A for this is right in the beginning of Parshas Vayikra. The Torah says, Im Oila Karbanoi, Im Mincha Karbanoi, Chatos, and then it says, Vim Zevach Shlamim Karbanoi. So right out of the gate, right? Perek Gimel Pasuk Aleph. When the Torah introduces the Shlamim, the Torah refers to it as the Zevach Shlamim. But either way, so the Min tained that the Chachamim got it wrong. He was mamish mocking the Chachamim. That they understood that the word Zvachim means Kala Karbanos. You see clearly that it's always the Shlamim. Read Scripture and you're going to know it's only referring to the Shlamim. Says the Even Ezra that this Min is a fool. You know why? Because with all his Chachmas and Torah Shabiksav, he forgot a Pasuk in the Torah. It says in the end of Parshas Yisro, Mizbach Adama Tasali. V'zavachta olav es oiloisecha ve'eshlamecha. It says mefurish v'zavachta olav es oiloisecha. And being that it says v'zavachta olav es oiloisecha, so it's clear that you can find the word zvicha even regarding a carbon oila, not only regarding a carbon shalom. So says the Tosfos Yontif again that the Rambam said that the word zvachim is a shem koil kol karbonis. Says the Tosfos Yontif that's only true when it comes to lashon chachamim, but when it comes to Torah shebiksav, over there it's only the shlamim and the oila. It's only the shlamim and the oila. And says the Tosfos Yontif that even though the Even Ezra himself in that shtickle told the men that you're making chayzik of the chachamim, that the chachamim treats zvachim as a shem koil for all karbanis. In the Torah, it's only the shlamim. He said, "What do you mean? It's a pasuk in the Torah. You find it by the oilos as well." But even the Even Ezra was only able to find the makar, says the Tosfos Yontif, for the oila. He wasn't able to find it for the chatas, and he wasn't able to find it for the yasham. And it's for that reason you're mukhrich to say that lashon chachamim l'chud and lashon hakasav l'chud. That is the Tosfos Yontif's comment on the Rambam. So again, the Rambam in Perek Alf Loch Yizayin Hilchos Meiser Karbanis, and the Rambam in the end of his Akdama to Pirush HaMishnayos on Seder Kachim, right before the first Mishnah Masechet Zvachim, made the same comment that when you find the lashon of Zvachim in Shas, you should know it means all the karbanos that were brought from Balei Chaim. The Mabit in his Kiryat Sefer, Perek Alf Loch Yizayin Hilchos Meiser Karbanis, made a comment. What was his comment? It's true only in lashon HaMishnah, lashon Chachamim. It's not true in lashon HaTorah, because in lashon HaTorah, whenever you find the word Zvachim, what it means is a shlam. The Tosfos Yontif made a very similar comment. He made it in Pirush HaMishnayos. His comment was that it's true only by Lashon Chachamim, Lashon HaMishnah. It's not true when it comes to Lashon HaKasav, because by Lashon HaKasav, it's only the shlamim and the oila, ayin Even Ezra, in the end of Parshas Yisro. Now the truth is the Mabit is mamish apella. You can't even give Zechanetz with this Mabit. The Mabit is mamish making the argument that the min made to the Even Ezra in the end of Parshas Yisro. So mitzvah liyashiv the Mabit. Because just like the min forgot that pasuk, I mean, lahavdil elef alfei avdolos v'ribei revavos pamim matoivos nisim and aflois. Right? It sounds a little bit like the Mabit is almost making the same task. So obviously, mitzvah liyashiv, you have to be miyashiv this Mabit. But the Tosfos Yontif and the Mabit are both coming to the same maskana that you have to say lashon hapasuk l'chud and lashon chachamim l'chud. But the truth is that if you take a step back and learn that Even Ezra for a second, Even Ezra is really a little bit of a shver in Even Ezra as well. Because the min was tiny that the Chachamim got it wrong. They treat Zvachim to mean all karbanis, and the Psukim, it's not. It's mefurish not that way. You always find the word Zevach by a shlamim. No, Even Ezra said he's a fool. He forgot a pasuk in the Torah. He forgot about the oila. Okay, so it's the shlamim and the oila, but it's still not the chatas. It's still not the asham. The Even Ezra is still a little bit shver, because Bishloim had Even Ezra said what the Mabit saying and what the Tosfos Yontif is saying. Lashon Chachamim l'chud and Lashon Hakasav l'chud. Okay, then you don't even have to find the pasuk in Parshas Yisro. Then you just knock them in out. But if you're already going into the blotter with this min and you're having a fight over scripture, at the end of the day, all you found it was by the Shlomim and the Eila. You still didn't find it by the Chatas and the Asham. It's a little bit still Einoi Omer Elo Darsheni. Good. I'll tell you a ha'ara nifla that I found in the Sefer Mishmar Alevi. And this is in Masechtes Zevachim. It's Siman Beis. It's something that he brings, Rav Schulzinger, from his uncle, Rav Velvel Chechik. V'ru'uyin hadvarim l'misha amram. He said such a hafaldige ha'ara. He says that in Ezra, the Tosfos Yontif, the Mabit, they were all struggling a little bit. Where do you find this inyan that Zevachim should be referred to all karbanis? You find them mefurish in the Torah countless times by the Shlamim. And Even Ezra has his one maramakim that you find it by the Eila as well. But you certainly don't find it by the Chatas. You certainly don't find it by the Asham. Said Rav Velvel Chechik. He said, I'm going to tell you where you find it, Bishar Karbanos. Such a beautiful ha'ara. No one ever thought of this. There were two Mizbechos. There was the Mizbeach ha'Eila, and there was the Mizbeach ha'Kteiris. The Mizbeach ha'Eila was also known as the Mizbeach ha'Nachoshes. It was also known as the Mizbeach ha'Chitzin. That was the big Mizbeach with the ramp, where all the Karbanos were brought. There was another Mizbeach, the Mizbeach ha'Kteiris. That Mizbeach was also known as Mizbeach HaZav, because it was made of gold. It was also known as Mizbeach HaPnimi, because it was inside the Heichel. What was brought on that Mizbeach? The Keteiros was brought on the Mizbeach. But it was called a Mizbeach. Why was it called a Mizbeach? What does the word Mizbeach mean? What's the shirish of the word Mizbeach? Zevach. It's the Mokom Zvicha. The Torah refers to the Mizbeach HaKteiros as a Mizbeach. Frank Rav Velvel Chechik, in what way is it a Mizbeach? They brought the Keteiros. The Keteiros is Zicha, not a carbon. It's not a Zvicha. So in what way is it a Zevach? Muzmin Zogin. It's because there was a time where there was some carbon that went on the Mizbeach. What was that? The Chatois HaPnimius. It was the only time. The dam of the Chatois HaPnimius used to go on that Mizbeach. So there it's Poshet. The reason the Mizbeach HaKteiros got the name, what makes it a Mizbeach? There was no Shchita going on over there. There was no proper Zvicha. The teretz is they took from certain Zvachim, the dam, which is the Iker, and they would put it on this structure. Hence, it gets known as a Mizbeach. But welche Zvachim did they take? One and only one carbon, the Chatas. So said Rav Velvel Chechik, that this min, Yishtachku Atzmoisav, is tiny. Where do you find that these carbon? Why was it called a Mizbeach, Reb Min? Would you like to explain that to me? It's not going to have a good answer. It's checkmate. The name Mizbeach HaKteiros is the raya that even a Chatas could be a Zevach. Okay, so we were just miyashiv the Chatas. What about the Asham? Right? We're getting someone. What about the Asham? So for that, Rav Velvel Chechik was Mitzayin, a Loshen Nifla from the Ramban. I don't think we ever mentioned this Ramban. And this Ramban's in two places. It's in Parshas Nosai and in Parshas Lechel. We never even mentioned it in Chumash. In Parshas Nosai, so the Torah goes through all the karbanos that the Nesiim used to bring, right? We know this. Karas, Kesef, Achat, right? All the Indian, and we say it again and again and again and again and again. We could all say it in our sleep, right? So the whole suite of karbanos that the Nesiim used to bring. The Ramban makes an observation. The Ramban says, "Chonchu hanesiim es hamizbeach b'chol minim akrevin lefanov." The Nesiim were mechanech the mizbeach with all the different karbanos you can bring. Every last thing that you would ever bring in the Beis Hamikdash, they went ahead and brought. Al kein heviu mincha ukteires ve'oila ve'chatos ushvat. Zok the Ramban. The fact that they brought a Keteiros and a Chatos was really a very big chiddush. Ain't bam benadav, because it's not something that's ever bought benadav. Aval hashlim bechanuka kol karbanos nasim came. Ki ein Yisrael makrivim zulasi elu karbanos bolvad. Because if you make a cheshbon, you're going to see every single carbon that Klal Yisrael would ever bring, they would bring. Says the Ramban, there's one problem. There was one carbon that wasn't brought. You know which carbon wasn't brought? To Asham. There was no Asham. Go through the niggin in your head. There was no Asham that was brought. So if there was no Asham that was brought, Freik the Ramban, what about the Asham? And for the Ramban, Ki Asham v'hachatas is not fair. Because the Asham and the Chatas, Dover Echad, the Shem Echad who? The Torah Achas Lahem. The Asham and the Chatas are literally the same thing. They're Dover Echad, they're Shem Echad, and the Torah Achas Lahem. It's mamish one Indian. The other place the Ramban says this is by the Bris Bein Absarim, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Avram Avinu, he says, Choli egla mishuleshes, ve'ez mishuleshes, ve'ayim mishulesh v'tar v'goizel. So he tells him, bring animals, and he says that they should be mishuleshes. What does it mean they should be mishuleshes? So the Ramban brings Even Ezra, he brings Targum Onkelos, he brings different pshatim and what the word mishuleshes is. But says Ramban, I'm going to tell you what I think mishuleshes is. Mishuleshes is 3 animals. V'ramaz loy, ki shloisha karbonos mehen yakriv l'fanav zara. And the reason 3, says the Ramban, is because there's 3 types of animals that were brought as karbonos. 3 suge karbonos. Ha'oila, v'hachatos, v'hashlam. Freit the Ramban, oila, chatas, and shlam, and you forgot one. What about the asham? Ki asham kechatasu, because the asham is like the chatas, ein beineim levad Hashem. The only chiluk between the chatas and the asham, ein bein chatas la asham, ela Hashem. Truth is, this Ramban's very big chiddush, because you learn kachin. I mean, today's daf, chatas shaloi l'shma is basel, asham shaloi l'shma is kasher. By the chatas, you have chamish chatos ha-mesois, by the asham, it's nitak l'riyah, right? Just some things that came up in today's daf. So we know the chatas and the asham really are very, very different. But this is what the Ramban says. The Ramban says that as it relates to understanding the relationship between the chatas and the asham, you have to know, ki ha-asham va-chatas davar echad, v'shem echad, hu v'teira achas lohem. So Zokra Velvel Chechik, that the kasha is in the Torah, it doesn't sound like Zevachim means kol ha-karbanos. It means only the shlamim. And even Even Ezra was able to find a pasuk v'zavachtas oiloisecha. But what about the chatas? What about the asham? Zok there. You want to know where you find that the chatas is considered a zevach? The mizbeach haktoris. What zevach was brought on it? Only the dam of the chatois apnimius. Must be it's considered a zevach. What about the asham? For that you have the Rambans. The Ramban says it's davar echad, it's shem echad, it's teira achas. And if the word zevach passes for the chatas, it's pasha based on this Ramban, it would pass for the asham as well. And if that's the case, you don't have to say what the Mabit said, and you don't have to say what the Taisi Yontif said, and that is Loshen Chachamim L'chud and Loshen HaTorah L'chud, because you have Mekairis in the Loshen HaKosev as well, that it could be that the word Zvachim is not only true for Shlamim, and not only true for Shlamim and Oila, but it would be true for Shar Karbanis as well. Just to end with one last Maramakim, Rav Schulzinger says that Shuvra Isi, he found afterwards that really this kasha from the Fetter, Rav Velvel Chetchik, that why was the Mizbeach HaKtoris called the Mizbeach? L'chayra, there was no zvicha done over there. The Ketairis was brought over there. So in what way was it called a zevach? This kasha the Zohar HaKadosh asks. It's a Zohar in Parshas Vayakel. It's Daf Reish Yud Tes Amud Aleph. Just read the opening lines. Pasach, this is Rab Shimon Bar Yochai talking. But Amar, and he said, it says, Vayas Mizbeach Miktar Ketairis. There was a Mizbeach Ketairis that was made. Haikra is Listaklobe. This is a pasuk that requires his pointing, said Rav Shimon. Begin to train Madbech and Hava. Because there were 2 Mizbechos. Madbech da Alavon, the Mizbeach ha'oila, Madbech da Ketairis Busman, and the Mizbeach HaKetairis. Da Levar, one, the Mizbeach ha'oila was outside, the Da Legav, and the Mizbeach HaKetairis was inside. Now, that Mizbeach HaKetairis, the Iu Pnima, which was inside, Amai Ikri Mizbeach. Why was it called a Mizbeach? There was no Zvicha, there were no Karbanos being brought over there. Mizbeach Hada Ikri. And Zok the Zohar, Chlor, Bak Tzener. It's Pashat, the word Mizbeach comes from Zvicha. And if that's the case, in what way is the Mizbeach HaKetairis called a Mizbeach? Ella said, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, begin. I'm going to tell you the reason is. The bottle, the kofis, the kamas, because the Maisa Ketairis was so potent, it was so powerful, that when the Kohen would bring the Ketairis, he had the ability to be mevatel so many Koiches Ra'im, and so many of the Mazikim was tutzich in the Welt from the Sitra Achra, who begin da who Sitra Bisha Kfis, and being that al yedei the Ketairis, the Sitra Achra got slaughtered, lo yochel l'sholta, it doesn't have the ability to be shoylit, v'lo mehevi katigarya, and it doesn't have the ability to be mekatrik, v'alda ikri mizbeach. You want to know why it's called mizbeach? It's true, there's no zevach, there's no zvicha that's being done on the mizbeach. But when the Kohen brought the Ketairis, he was being zayveach, he was making a shchita in the oilamos. Which oilamos? The Sitra Achra, the bad oilamos. And he's slaughtering all these terrible gzeres. We know the power of the Ketairis. Ketairis is a school of Ashiris. Ketairis is an Inyan where if there's a magay for Achmad al-Islam, right? This is the matana, the soid that the Malach HaMavos was Megala to Moshe Rabbeinu when he was Alul Amar and to be Mekabel the Torah. And the way it works is with a mahalach of zvicha. It works with a mahalach of shchita. So says the Zohar HaKadosh, it's a pliat sumo. This is a pasuk. You have to be mistakli. You have to be misplain in this pasuk. Why would the Mizbeach HaKtoros be referred to as a Mizbeach? The teretz is not because of any zvicha that's happening ba'alma hadei, but it's because of a zvicha that's happening in the under oilamos. It's because it's being zoyvah, because of all the skulas and all the dvarim tovim that are coming from the Ketores. That's alpi nister, alpi nigla. It's because of the chatois apnimius, and maybe that's also called zvachim. So this kasha is an interesting kasha. Why would the Mizbeach HaKtoros even be referred to as a Mizbeach? We have a mahalach alpi nigla, we have a mahalach alpi nister, and we're going to stop here.